Hey guys, this is Justin at the Survivor Review, and I've been reviewing the Omen films, which seemingly came to a close with the last film, The Final Conflict, culminating in the death of the Antichrist, Damien Thorn. But of course, they couldn't leave well enough alone, and a decade later, we got another sequel, in the form of a made-for-TV movie. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about some crap, because today I'm gonna be talking about Omen IV. The Antichrist Awakens. Ugh, God, this movie's so bad. This is clearly a cheaply thrown together cash-in attempt to revitalize a franchise that clearly ended and had nowhere else to go, but of course they made it go and it went in the stupidest places and the most pointless places. This movie just feels cheap. This isn't like a Psycho 4 made-for-television movie that was made for Showtime and actually had production value and was actually able to be rated R. This is not like that. This feels like a cheap network TV movie with like no blood, no gore. All the jet scenes are like heavily censored. The movie is just boring. To be honest, that's the worst thing, and that's the thing I remember the most about watching this movie as a kid, because I saw all the Omen movies when I was young and I liked all of them, and also because back then I was really easily amused by like everything I watched, so I usually liked whatever I watched. But then I watched Omen IV, and I didn't like it, like, at all. And the biggest thing I remember from watching it was just it being boring. I remember just being bored out of my mind. It really is just a dull, made-for-TV remake of The Omen, because it is the plot of The Omen, except this time it's a little girl instead of a little boy. Because the plot of this movie follows this lawyer and her husband who's a politician, and they have been trying to have kids, but it just hasn't been working out, so they end up adopting a little girl. And as the movie progresses, a lot of strange things start happening with the little girl. Like, she keeps getting in trouble at school, people who she comes into contact with keep getting hurt, and the mom starts to realize that something's up while the dad is very oblivious to it, and she looks into it, and guess what? She's the daughter of Damien Thorn. What a shock. And yeah, that's the plot of the movie. I will say the acting for the most part is solid. The main character, the mother character, is pretty good, and she has to really carry the movie. She has a lot of the emotional weight to it, and there's a lot of stuff that happens to her, kind of similar to the wife character in the first Omen. A lot of stuff happens to her, and she goes through a lot, and she sells it for the most part, so she's probably the strongest part of the movie. The rest of the cast is, like, they're passable. I mean, there's nothing really bad about their acting. There's just nothing special. But Major Briggs does show up in the movie. I don't really remember who his character is. He's some sort of, like, politician figure who works with husband, I think. I don't really remember. But it was nice seeing him. I always like seeing that guy and stuff. And then we get to Delia, that's the daughter. Her acting is okay. I've seen worse child actors. She's okay. She plays just your typical, like, creepy kid. That's the one thing. Like, from the moment she's born, she's already evil. You know, there's no, like, moments of her really being, like, a normal kid and they're kind of, like, transitioning to her being evil. Just from the beginning, you just tell, because she always has this, like, evil glare and everything, and that's really her only thing in the movie. And it really just makes her not an interesting character. You have a lot of scenes with her, and she really is one of the main characters, so to have her just be this kind of blank slate of a villain is very boring and really uninteresting. There's really nothing to her that makes me invested whenever she's on screen, you know, because just right from the beginning, she's staring and, you know, causing bad stuff to happen, and it's like, oh, okay. This movie just feels so far removed from the first three. This is the type of series they really can't do a made-for-TV movie of it, because one of the like cool aspects of the first two films is how cinematic they look and how grand and how like epic they feel at times, and so you can't replicate that as a TV movie. I'm kind of bringing it back to Psycho. Psycho 4 worked because the original Psycho was a smaller scale film, so you could do Psycho as a TV movie because you just make it small scale like the first film. But like this movie, coming off of watching the trilogy right before it, it's so jarring and it just feels so disconnected, because like I said, like those first films felt much grander than the material. Like those films felt like these epic, lavish Hollywood productions. You know, they were movies about the Antichrist and him killing people. They still felt grander than they really were. And then with this film, all that grandness is gone, and you just have a very just cliche, dull movie about a demonic child, basically, who kills people. And it's like, And add to the fact of this movie being basically a remake of the first film, it even does a different version of the decapitation death from the first film. Like, that happens in this movie. Granted, it's a terribly done TV version, so there's, like, no impact to it or no anything to it. But they do that. There's a lot of just similar elements. Like, it really just feels like a remake of The Omen. It just sucks because Omen 3 is a flawed movie. Like I mentioned in my review, I wasn't too big on it. But it ended the series, which is something that you don't usually get with horror movies. Horror movies always end with like, oh, there can be another one. They always try to tease more films and have like Omen 3 end with one Damien dying and then, you know, you have that big happy music, you have like the happy positive Bible quotes, just signaling the end of the story. Then just to go into this, it just feels so unnecessary and so tacked on. By the end of the movie, the mom ends up hiring a private investigator to go try to find out who Delia's real parents are. That's the moment that I checked out of the movie, was that whole part of the private detective just going around like asking people questions. That's when I was just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna look at my computer now. Like that's when the movie just like grinded to a halt. Because you're just watching this guy try to find out information that we all already know. Like, if you're watching this movie, you know that she's going to be the daughter of Damien Thorn. Like, what else is she going to be? So watching him kind of go through this whole thing and try to find information, I was like, I don't care. And then he finds the information. He ends up dying, and this is a death scene. So at one point, he's all, I don't even remember. Holy crap, it was co-directed by the director of Halloween 5. Huh. Weird things start happening and he ends up like getting all worried and ends up running into this alleyway while the Omen theme starts playing, and all of a sudden this like ghoul kind of ghost like choir comes out singing the song. What the fuck was that? Like, nothing like that's ever happened in the other movies. Like, that was just dumb. Just all of a sudden this choir comes up and they're like chanting the song and you're like, what? And then he dies in the construction accidents where just this wrecking ball just comes in and kills him, which would have been a really fun sequence if you could actually see it happen. But either way, before he ends up dying, he sends the information off to the mother, and then she ends up confronting the doctor, who turns out to be one of the minions of the devil and everything, and that's where you get the plot twist. Well, first off, she reveals, like, oh, who's Damien Thorn? You know, that's where you find out, oh no, she's the daughter of Damien, you know, shit. But then you get to the plot twist. Because, I'm kind of skipping over some stuff. So they can't have kids, they keep trying, but they never do. Then all of a sudden in the middle of the movie, she gets pregnant and has a baby. So, it turns out that that baby is actually Delia's twin, who she was carrying inside her, and the doctor took out of her and put into the mother to have the kid, and that kid is actually the next Antichrist. Basically, Delia was just there to protect him. What? First off, that's just like a way overcomplicated way of just trying to make the Antichrist be a man, which, who cares? Like, why can't she just be the daughter of Damien and she's the evil one? Why does there have to be a whole other thing? And also, that's just dumb. I mean, I'll give it this. It's different, and I wasn't expecting it. So it kind of is effective in that way, but it's still friggin' stupid. And then when she comes home and she wants to have confirmation for herself, Delia's holding the baby, and the symbol, like how she finds out that it's true, is that on the baby's hand there's the 666. What? That's so dumb. Like, how does that make sense? How are they supposed to hide that? Like, it makes sense for Damien when it was in his hair, because you can't see that in plain sight, but it's on his hand. And then, of course, like, she ends up killing herself, so no one really knows that she was telling the truth, and then the movie ends with the dad and the daughter at the funeral, and then walking off, presumably to continue the story with her, you know, helping bring forth the Antichrist. And luckily, we never got any of that. Thank God. And another thing you can't recreate is Jerry Goldsmith's music, which is like the best part of all three movies. It's the one like constantly great thing in all three films. And this movie has a different composer. It does use certain themes. It has the Omen 3 theme and the original classic like theme that they kind of play throughout the movie. And it just, I don't know, it just doesn't work because the actual score for the movie, I'm not going to say it's like awful or anything, but it's just your very typical bland TV movie score. You know, there's really nothing to it. There's nothing that feels like The Omen. There's a couple moments they try to have like a choir singing, but it just comes off as super cheap. And then when the actual like Jerry Goldsmith music comes on, it just feels very copied and pasted. Like they're just like, oh crap, let's put some Jerry Goldsmith stuff right there. Okay, nice, right there. There's even one scene where it literally like fades into one another. If you hear the normal music score, and then it fades into the Jerry Goldsmith score, and it's just so obvious. Come on. And the other movies have like symbols or signs of the evil, signs of the devil. This movie does that. This movie has the upside down cross, which it milks for the entire movie. First off, one, that's like the most generic type of like sign of evil. Just take the cross and turn it upside down. But you could almost make a drinking game out of how many times they show the upside down cross throughout this movie. It's like their only like thing they had. At one point they get this new nanny to help take care of Delia, and she's like psychic, and she gets these weird feelings from her, and like there's this huge like kind of subplot in the middle there of like her talking to her friend who's a psychic, and she's like, there's something going on in there, and she ends up taking Delia to a psychic fair. And I'm just like, what is this at this point? Although I will give that sequence of her just like basically setting the psychic fair on fire could have been a really fun sequence if actually had budget and that she was able to, you know, have people get killed and everything. That could have been a fun sequence. Actually, that would have been enjoyable. But as it is, it's just a very bland sequence. It doesn't work, but it could have been cool. So that's Omen 4, and Jesus, it's as bad as I remember. I'd only seen this movie once when I was younger. I rewatched the sequels and the original like constantly, but I never revisited Omen 4 after that first time, and I can tell why, because this movie's friggin' terrible. It's just as cheaply, blandly put together, obvious cash grab, like trying to revitalize the franchise where it doesn't need to be, and there's really nowhere to go with it, and it's just the same thing we've seen before, but done way worse. Like, I almost feel bad for criticizing Omen 2 and 3 after watching this, because those two movies are masterpieces compared to this. Those are like all-time greats compared to this movie. And that's my look at the Omen franchise. I know there was the remake in 2006. I'm not going to be talking about that because I actually haven't even seen it. And it's not that kind of thing where it's like, I refuse to watch it because it's a remake of a great movie. I don't know. Don't really have any interest, so I probably just won't watch it. You know, I just don't really care to see it. And then there's that Damien TV show that came out like 3 years ago, I think, that I heard was pretty bad, so I never watched it, so I don't really have anything to say about that either. There is one other Omen thing I'd like to talk about at some point, and that's the novels. Because there were novelizations of the first three films, and then after that, it was followed by original novels, Omen 4 and Omen 5. Original stories that have no connection to the movie Omen 4. In fact, they were written before Omen 4 was even made. They do kind of follow a similar storyline about like the spawn of Damien taking over, but just handle it very differently. And I would really love to talk about those at some point, because I really like the novels. I actually thought they were really entertaining books, even for being like novelizations of the movies. There's a lot of interesting stuff in them that'd be worth talking about down the line at some point. But, you know, we'll see. I don't know. But either way, though, that's all I have to say about the series. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.